Kenya has always been seen as a holiday destination with masses to offer. But recently, dark clouds have appeared in the seemingly endless African skies of what has always been considered one of the most stable countries on the continent. As a result, visitors concerned for their safety have stayed away in droves.
Business is gone very bad. Like last year, we used to do maybe a day, 10 trips. So if you get 1 or 2 trips, you must be very lucky.
On my journey to find out how the country is going to woo them back, I'll be coming face to face with some of the rarest animals on Earth.
Oh, we are very far.
I'll be testing the laws of science at the equator.
There you go.
Oh, it's going counterclockwise now then. And I'll be meeting this young rapper who hopes to unite the next generation. I'm hoping to see for myself what recent events have meant to Kenya's vital tourist trade. It accounts for around 10% of the country's GDP and is one of their biggest foreign exchange earners. And to do that, there's an obvious place to begin.
Okay, we're now approaching Lamu. That's Lamu to the town. We have the airstrip straight ahead, so we'll be landing shortly.
This is Lamu town. It's been designated by UNESCO as a World Heritage Centre, and it's said to be the oldest Swahili town in existence. And it's the kind of evocative, out-of-the-way place that tourists love to seek out. I'm going to lead it. Okay, come on. Come on. Come on, donkey. You must have... Oh, there we go. I knew I'd have a way with him in the end. An army of donkeys are the only vehicles allowed on the island. And the old town's labyrinth of narrow, shady streets reek of the island's long and colourful history as a centre for explorers and traders in spices, gold and slaves, from Europe, China and the Middle East. It's not hard to appreciate its laid-back appeal. Jambo, I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
It's fantastic. It's like the best secret going right now. I live in Nairobi now. I get on a plane, and within like an hour's flight, I'm 1,000 years back in time. You know, no jet skis, no discos, no, chain restaurants.
And that atmospheric charm turned Lamu into a favoured destination of the wealthy, celebrities and royalty alike, with luxury hotel accommodation to meet their every need. But in the early morning of October the 1st, 2011, the tranquility of Lamu was shattered.
Masked and armed, this is where the men struck in the middle of the night. Shots were fired. A French woman in her 60s was carried away to a waiting motorboat. This was the second attack in less than 3 weeks. Further up the coast, British tourists were targeted.
A year on and calm has returned to Shella Beach, but tourists by and large have not. And locals like dhow owner Aswif Omar are feeling the effects.
Business is gone very bad. Like last year, we used to do maybe a day, 10 trips, going to Lamu, to the airport, to different places. But for the time being, because we don't have enough tourists, so if you get 1 or 2 trips, you must be very lucky.
November and February are the 2 best months.
For hoteliers Lars and KARIUKI, business is down 60%. They've had to lay off a third of their staff and say they're losing over $1,500 a day in order to stay open.
It's been very difficult. I mean, several places have shut up. A lot of people in the industry have lost their jobs. And it's got the knock-down effect all the way to the local community.
The Kenyan government knows that making tourists feel secure is the key to winning them back. On a national level, their immediate response to the kidnapping was to send the Kenyan army into war-torn Somalia to confront the Al-Shabaab Islamic militants there. In Lamu itself, security has been visibly improved. I'm going to see for myself now just how security has been beefed up here on Lamu. I'm going to go out with the armed police on one of their regular patrols around the island. Armed with AK-47s, the patrolmen are watching out for any boat big enough to sail the open sea, which might be carrying weapons, drugs or illegal trade. And is this where the abduction happened along this stretch? Duncan points out the bungalow where the abduction happened, which is just a few minutes by speedboat from the open sea. This is a very vulnerable stretch.
Yeah, it's a very vulnerable stretch. But this is where normally we focus our patrols on.
Well, apparently now they've seen a boat and they're going to intercept it and search it. After a friendly encounter, it turns out the men on this boat are just testing a new engine. Back on dry land, these new measures appear to be doing the trick amongst the tourists who witness them.
I absolutely feel safe here, 100%. I just don't think the threat is real.
As I get ready to leave the island, it strikes me that for now, Lamu has reverted to being that quiet, almost secret place that tourists in the early years must have enjoyed. But Lamu is not the only place feeling the repercussions of Kenya's torrid recent past. Ever since the bloody aftermath of the 2007 elections, when over 1,000 people died, a series of terrorism incidents and tribal violence have battered Kenya's reputation. Now the country's holding its breath as new elections loom early next year. The government says it's doing all it can to restore the country's image.
We are. There is security has been beefed up. There is surveillance in the tourist outlets. You cannot walk in and out.
But these tough times for tourism, in a country which welcomed a record 1.1 million visitors in 2010, mainly from the US and Europe, have also made Kenya reassess where it targets its advertising.
We are seeing an increase on the middle class in Africa. The economies in Africa are also growing. So we are marketing to this middle class so that we can strengthen our base. Right now, we depend entirely on international. If there are travel adversaries and these people don't come to our country, our hotels shut down, and we are saying, no, we need to change.
For all travellers from wherever they come, making the capital, Nairobi, once dubbed Nairobi, more attractive can only help bring more tourist dollars to East Africa's largest economy. Instead of being seen as the place to arrive and then leave almost immediately to head to the beach or the bush, this city of over 3 million people is being marketed as a destination in itself. With plenty of culture too. Like here, the 4th Hay Arts Festival held at Nairobi's National Museum. Wanjeri Gakuru writes about the art scene for Up magazine, which seeks out the best of what's happening in the city she loves.
Yes, it's true. What's happening politically is a little scary, but it's still a good place to come, because when you actually arrive here, you realize that there's no fighting. People are actually very normal, very welcoming, very hospitable, and it's a great place to come and just learn about the culture, learn about the people, give it a chance. It's a great, great city.
Before coming to Nairobi, most people just gave us precautions to take and warned us about the robberies and taking cabs from place to place. And once we got here, we found out that it's a very vibrant city, and we've found that people are really nice. So far, we've been having a blast.
Ladies and gentlemen, there is a gentleman, and I told you that he can see us.
At the other end of town, far away from the well-heeled crowd at the festival, another urban get-together is taking place in the city's slums. The local hero and modern-day Pied Piper who's organised this football tournament is Echo Dida. A well-known gospel rapper whose mission is to end the Kenyan tribalism, which almost killed him back in 2007, when he was set upon by a teenage gang who started questioning him about his tribe.
Before I even explained myself, because I couldn't even remember the words in vernacular, they chucked, someone drew out a panga, a machete, and he was ready to cut my head off. I really saw death with my eyes at that point.
So that experience then made you think?
Yeah, it really made me eager to see this country change, to see these things change, and to make others who are youth not become part of the problem, but stand out as youth to say we are part of the solution.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen.
Along with his music, Echo has chosen football in a country that's football mad to get his message of unity across. As I continue my journey in part 2, I'll be travelling up country like a true Kenyan, in one of the matatus other drivers love to hate. And I'll be finding out how getting local people up close and personal with a black rhino might be a small step on the road towards stamping out poaching. It's a typical chaotic working day in Nairobi. And when it comes to mass public transport across the almost 700 square kilometres of the capital, more than 10,000 of these privately owned minibuses, called matatus, in varying states of repair, rule the roads. Well, it's time now for me to leave Nairobi and to head up country to Mount Kenya. Really, there's only one way to go. What the tube is to London, the subway is to New York, the matatu is to Nairobi. So I'm going to give it a go. James, hi. Oh, I'm fine. How are you? Nice to meet you. In fact, without them, Nairobi would grind to a halt.
80 to 85% of Kenyans depend on these matatus for transport.
James KARIUKI plies his regular route by day, and by night he writes a blog about the problems of life as a matatu driver. Kenya's road safety record is poor. There are over 3,000 deaths a year, and the wild and reckless driving of matatus, often avoided by tourists for just this reason, is blamed for a high proportion of the country's accidents.
One of the reasons, I think the major cause of these accidents is inexperienced drivers, because in Kenya, there is nowhere you go to get trained to become a public service driver. You can just buy your driving license through corruption and you get your papers and you are on the road.
Well, we're making a stop here because, look where we are. Ta-da! We're at the equator and we're going to test something very unscientifically, something that I have always wanted to see ever since I was a child. And luckily, the man they call the professor around here is happy to help me.
And I'm gonna show you a demonstration. Put my indicator to show whether this is moving.
Not at all.
Not at all. There is no circular motion at the equator.
So we're in the northern hemisphere now.
Northern hemisphere, this is the 20 meters point now.
Okay.
Let us see whether this one can work. So, which way is it moving?
Clockwise.
Clockwise. So, this means that we're in the northern hemisphere, right?
Right.
This is about 40 meters southern hemisphere. There we go.
Oh, it's going counterclockwise now then. Anti-clockwise.
That is the end of the lesson today.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Welcome again.
Well, I know that physicists say it's a load of old rubbish and it can't possibly be true, but what can I say? I'm impressed. Science lesson over, and I'm in Laikipia, some 200 kilometres north of Nairobi, the gateway to Kenya's wild northern frontier country and an area teeming with wildlife not found anywhere else in Africa. Stefano Kelly, who runs Lewa Safari Camp on the 65,000-acre Lewa Conservancy, showed me the lay of the land. Tell me, what can we see from here in terms of wildlife?
It's just magic. You on the top of a rise, and you've got fantastic 360-degree view, and you've got elephants over here with 3 rhinos, 2 adults and a young, reticulated giraffe in the distance over there, Grevy zebra and Birchall zebra are up ahead, Thompson's gazelles and Grant's gazelles and more zebra. It's just magic. It's Eden.
But this Eden is being threatened by a recent upsurge in poaching, which, fueled by the internet, is now a business worth over $7 billion globally a year. Only last month, a 17-year-old male rhino was killed here.
The biggest expense for this conservancy is the security. We're probably talking in the hundreds of rangers, radio equipment, repeater masts, an aeroplane, huge electric fence that's protecting 60,000 acres that needs to be maintained.
I suppose the danger is that it's so expensive that some conservancies, it just won't be sustainable for them.
That's exactly right. I mean, recently a conservancy in the western part of Laikipia decided to give up its rhinos and translocated them and pull down the electric fence because it was just costing them too much.
In the 1970s, there were 20,000 black rhinos in Kenya. Now there are around 600. The Old Pejeta Conservancy in Laikipia is the largest black rhino sanctuary in East Africa. It's also home to 4 of the last 7 northern white rhinos in the world. The demand from Asia for rhino horn for so-called medicinal reasons has devastated the rhino population here.
In Kenya, the figures quoted of $65,000, per piece of horn, which is, if you look at that, the incentive is just too high for, getting people involved.
And that's just the dilemma. How to convince local people in a country where most people live on less than $1 a day that the animals they live amongst are worth conserving.
Common zebra and gravy zebra. You can see the stripes of the gravy zebra are a little bit thinner.
Which is why these locals, many of whom have never seen wildlife up close despite living just a few miles away, have been invited to Old Pejeta today.
Most people don't have an opportunity to go there. So what do they think? That it's just tourists who have the privilege of seeing such animals. So to them, they feel left out. They have nothing, they have no attachment to protecting wildlife.
38-year-old Isa has come to see his first rhino. So today's the day. And finally, the chance to meet Baraka, the blind black rhino.
Actually, I thought it is a very small animal, but I've come to realize that it is an enormous one, a huge one. And actually, I'm very happy even to see it. And it's wow. Yeah, it's wonderful.
It was my first time to see the rhino, and I didn't thought it was so big, so huge.
Man meets rhino for the first time and enjoys it. This encounter may have been the tiniest of steps in connecting the local community to the animals here, but changing attitudes in Kenya is seen as vital for the future of the country's wildlife.
Come on, beautiful people, for we are beautiful people. Chris Brown, you say me do not take a piss. Now, even the you to run this.
And it's that desire to shake things up which has really struck me on my journey through this beautiful country. In these tough times for tourism here, many of the Kenyans I've spoken to are not content simply to wait things out. They want to make their own contributions to making positive change in their country, no matter how small or personal they may be. As the Swahili saying goes, little by little fills the pot.
Red, black and white. Red, black and white are the colors of red, black and white are the colors of beautiful people. We are tribe all. This is your to tribal house.